how's it going, guys? Welcome to Audio Addiction. We're in episode 4 of Backstage Press, and we have a special guest from Big Picture Media. It's going to be one of, I don't know how many, because there's a lot of you, and you can say your name and that stuff.
I'm Becky. I'm a senior publicist at Big Picture Media, and I'm real excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, Becky and I we were just talking about this off camera, we've been working together for a couple years, easy, solid. And I had come up with this idea, actually not because of the whole situation we're having now, but I just was like, oh, well, there's a lot of people that I love that have helped me in my career doing YouTube. And I was like, I feel like, at least for what I do, I feel like there isn't that much love, and that sounds very mean to say, but I feel like there's not a lot of love for publicists and people that do a lot of behind the scenes stuff. So my whole thought was let me just talk to the people that I like. That, first of all, it's funny because we all only exchange emails, and we don't know the other side of the coin. So I am excited to do this because I get to learn about you guys individually, and hopefully we'll be cool friend. I mean, I feel like we're friends anyway, but I feel like even more so,
Yeah, and for us, it's fun to be able to talk a little bit more about what it is we do, since there's so many people who seem to have no idea what a publicist is.
So there we go. Well, now we're gonna get into the fun stuff, Becky. So I guess, what was the first beginnings? What was your first interaction with obviously you're a music lover, but what was your first kind of thing where you're I want to do this for a job, I want to be a publicist, I want to go, or I want to just work in the industry? What was the first kind of thing you started out with, I guess?
Yeah, so I actually started out on the journalism side of things.
Okay.
I began writing album and show reviews when I was in high school for my high school paper, and it was something that I've always loved to write. I've always loved music, and it was a great way for me to kind of combine the two things.
Sure.
So that's where I got my start, and when I went to college, I very much planned on majoring in journalism and continuing down that path. I wrote for the college paper, and that's how I first came into contact with Big Picture, was starting to write about some of their bands in and around New York City. But when I started looking for internships, I ended up interning at Big Picture, and I realized that PR was more what I wanted to do, because
Sure.
when you're a journalist, it is very much you have to be honest about your opinions. You aren't always going to be writing about something you love, and it kind of sucks to have to put any kind of negativity like that into the world. But with PR, you're working with bands that you do love, and we get to kind of craft our own rosters. And at the end of the day, we like to tell people that we are a professional hype person for our bands, and it's really great to be able to just spend all day talking about these artists that I love so much and I'm so passionate about, and share that with others.
That's really cool, because for me, obviously being kind of behind the scenes and doing the whole I guess pseudo journalism stuff, I feel like I won't have people. I feel like I kind of take the same approach as PR, where I'll only take on bands that I love. Obviously there's bands that I have on and I wind up falling in love with, but I feel for myself, when you reach out with me with a band, I'm always even if it's through email, I'm she's stoked on this band. So I feel for me, if I don't already know the band, I need to check it out, because I feel all of you guys collectively do a good job of being oh my god, this band's sick, Brandon, have you checked them out? And I'm yes or no, and I'm if I haven't, now I'm gonna go listen to them. And so I feel for myself, it's always a really good thing to see that people, not to say that I don't see that with publicists, but I feel with you guys, there's always that little extra 10% that I'm I should check it out, because you guys really do love your band. So
I'm glad that comes across in our emails, because that's something that we really do pride ourselves on, is our excitement and our passion for what we do and for the people that we get to work with. So if it's coming across in emails, it means we're doing something right.
There you go. And then how was the first, when they were, did they ask you to be hey, Becky, would you want to come on full time? How is that kind of interaction, or that meeting that was happening? Were you oh my god, this is awesome? Or how was your feelings about that? Because I mean, I feel that would be oh my god, I hit the lottery kind of a thing.
I think it was kind of mutual, to be honest. Like I said, I started interning at Big Picture Media when I was in college after I started writing about some of their bands, and I wanted to start doing internships in the music industry and figure out like what exactly I wanted to do. So I started spring of my sophomore year of college, and then I never left. I essentially was like, hey, guess what? I'm a permanent intern now, and you guys are stuck with me. And in that last year, when I was finishing up classes, I very much made it like a known thing that I wanted to work there, and that if a position opened up, I would love to come on board. So when I finally did finish classes, my boss, Dana, who is the founder of Big Picture Media, she sat me down and said, listen, I know you said that you really wanted to work here. We have a position opening up. If you still want it, it's yours. And I took it, and I started about a month and a half after I finished classes, and that was it. This is where I've been for the last 6 years.
And now we're here. So
now we're here.
Now we're talking about it. I guess the next thing was, what are some of the things you look for when you is it something that you reach out to other bands, or the bands coming to you and are like, hey, we have, this publicist, like PR person, and like we want to, get you on board with Becky, or like, how does this work out? Because for me, I like knowing that just because I think it's interesting for myself, and I feel like a lot of people that are going to check this out are interested by it. So I guess, and then I guess you can kind of go into how the best way to reach out to you and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's kind of, again, a mixed bag here. A lot of it is, we will reach out to bands that we really like.
Sure.
And just say, hey, not sure what you're working on this year, but if you need a publicist, would love to chat. I've definitely done that on a number of occasions and had it work out very much in my favor.
Sure,
where I went on a band's Facebook and saw they didn't have a publicist. So I sent an email to whatever email address was available and started working with them. Last year, I did that with the Early November. They mentioned at a show that they were working on a new record. So I hit up their manager and ended up working that album, and it was a dream come true for me because I've always loved them. But on the other hand, there are a lot of bands who are maybe familiar with other bands on our roster, or are friends with other bands on our roster, and they're looking for a PR person, and someone will say to them, hey, why don't you try Big Picture? And they'll shoot us a note, and we'll hop on a call, see if it's a good fit, and go from there. So it kind of just depends on the band and the situation, but it's a little bit of both.
That's awesome. Well, good to hear that it's like kind of like I would say a 50-50 mix of like, having people on that you like. I guess you kind of talked about it a little bit, being the Early November, being, a band you like and stuff like that, and obviously running their campaign. But what were some other ones that you were like, oh my God, I get to work with this band. Like, this is so awesome. Like, what were some of the other bands like on that, I guess, list of people?
There have been so many bands I've worked with over the last 6 years that I would sit down at work and start sending emails and go, I can't believe that this is my job and this is my life. Some of the other ones that come to mind, and not even necessarily bands that I brought in personally, but that I just happened to get to work on, were like Bayside, who is one of my all-time favorite bands. I've worked on Census Fail. We recently helped put out the 4 Year Strong record. Getting to work press for the full Vans Warped Tour for the last 2 years that it was a cross-country tour was an absolute dream come true, and something that I never in a million years thought would happen. As someone who grew up going to that tour, getting to be a part of the press team for that was just such a rewarding and fulfilling thing. God, there's so many bands even bands that I never had heard of before, that I ended up falling in love with when somebody sent me the album, was like, hey, do you like this? Would you want to work on it? And now they're some of my favorite bands. I really love I the Mighty is such a great band. Such good dudes too. Just the best people. We work with Equal Vision Records. We work with Pure Noise Records. We work with Hopeless Records. So just getting to be involved in any small way with those labels is such a cool thing.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way, and I'm pretty sure I said it in the email, but I'll have to side tangent a little bit. But I was telling Becky, every time I the Mighty came through, I was like, please like, please help me out with this. I would really like love to interview Out of the Mighty. I was like, they're my favorite band. And I was like, I've been dying, like, ever since I started doing this, I was like, that's on my bucket list. Like, I need to have them on. I was like, in some way, shape, or form. Like, I don't really care. It's going to happen. And I would go up to shows, like, go out to their shows, obviously, and I'd go up to Brent, and I'd be like, Brent, come on, man, like, you really gotta, like, I'm not even saying it because, like, I was, like, just asking for it. I was just like, please, like, it would mean a lot to me, like, as an individual. And then I remember, I think it was last year, and I had emailed you, and I was like, please, Becky, I was like, I don't know what you have to do. I was like, can you please make this happen? And you're like, I'm gonna do what I can, all this stuff. And then I got the email back, and I was just so, like, I, like, literally couldn't tell you how much excitement was on my face, like, when I got that email, and you're like, you're good to go, you're going to interview him. And I was like, it was just such a cool experience. And it was just, like, to me, that was, like, one of the best experiences. I love working with Big Picture, but that was, like, one off my, like, list. I was like, oh my God, this is so sick. So
I'm so happy.
Thank you so much.
That's the other great thing about my job, is getting to make dreams like that come true.
Yeah. And it's good to hear that. And I mean, like I said, you guys do, like, some really great work, and for me, it was like a point of pride to, like, you know, I was like, kind of like, I hope they want to come on, like, I hope they want to talk about, like, their experiences doing this sort of stuff, because, you know, I feel like a lot of people don't know all the, like, ins and outs of doing that sort of thing. So for me, it was really cool to do that. But what is, like, one band, like, your dream band, that you would love to do, like, PR work, like, you know, obviously, like, your publicist work?
It's really hard at this point to think of a band like that, because I've been so fortunate. Like I said, Bayside is one of my all-time favorite bands, and to be their publicist is such a dream come true for me. I worked with the Early November and Census Fail and 4 Year Strong, and last year I got to work with Simple Plan for a little while, which was like another, like, bucket list band for me. So whenever somebody says to me, well, like, who do you want to work with? It's always such a thing where I have to sit and think about it, because most of the bands that I would say for that kind of a question, I've already gotten a chance to work with. I think at this point, my go-to answer is Motion City Soundtrack. I don't know if they're, like, actually a band anymore. That tour was a one-off thing or whatever, but Motion City Soundtrack, if you guys need somebody, give me a call, shoot me an email. I am available for literally anything. But
that's awesome. Well,
the last one to cross off for me.
We'll make sure the Twitter game is on fire for that.
Live out into the universe for me.
There we go. This is like, whenever I ask that question, this is the best feeling when something happens like that, where they're like, oh my God, we watched this. We loved how much Becky loves, like, Motion City Soundtrack. So, like, we got to do it. You know, it just makes sense for us. But I'm going to ask you some band questions that I like asking. Okay. If you were to compile a dream tour, who would be on the lineup?
Ooh, is this like bands that are currently active, or, like, can I bring back bands from the dead?
I feel like, okay, so we'll do a split. One that's like just like dream, doesn't matter what, and then one I feel like that's more current, like that could feasibly happen, you know?
Okay, so dream tour for me would definitely be like a Yellow Card Bayside Cartel tour.
Ooh.
And that's why I asked about current versus bands, because Yellow Card, obviously 3 years ago, decided to call it quits.
I know.
Cartel is kind of hit or miss, depends on the day if you ask what's going on. So that would be like my all-time dream tour. And I guess more realistically speaking, I'm going to go with like a Bayside headliner.
Okay.
Throw Eye the Mighty on there, because I think that would be a good combo.
Okay. Yeah.
And then there's a band that I work with and I really love, and I think that you've interviewed them previously, Figure Eight.
Yes, Figure Eight, yeah.
I love Figure Eight. They're one of those bands that I probably never would have heard of if I didn't work with them, and now they're one of my favorites, and I love everything they've put out. So I'm going to go with Bayside, Eye the Mighty, Figure Eight.
Ooh, that's a good one. I like that one. Well, Bayside, if you want to take a note out of Becky's book, we should do that. I feel like that for me, like some of these tours that I get asked, I feel like they've either already happened or they're like a band or two off. So I don't know if they Side and I the Mighty have toured together, but you
They
know.
did. They did a UK tour together.
Ah,
For
yes.
I think it was the Walking Wounded anniversary tour over there.
Correct.
So they
Correct.
have toured together. I didn't get to see it, and I think that as both of their publicists, I should get to see it. So we're just gonna say that that's got to happen still.
Well, hopefully all of the stars will align, and that will hopefully, you know, be sooner than later, guys. So next question, Becky, another one. Who have you currently been jamming? Because I feel like you guys always have like a surge of really great music, but who have you been listening to lately?
My music, what I'm listening to varies a lot depending on the day. And I
Sure.
think being stuck at home in my apartment has me listening to stuff that like is a little bit more upbeat and a little bit poppier just to try and like lift the mood a little bit. I really love the album that Charlie Bliss put out last year.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And that's a band that I had never necessarily listened to. And this album just like popped up in my inbox one day. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to check it out, see what this is. And absolutely fell in love. And it's been on like constant rotation in my playlist ever since. I also really love the singles that Dua Lipa's been putting out, and I think that that record's coming very soon, so I'm stoked about that. And then I always just kind of go back to stuff that I listened to as a teenager. So I love Yellow Card, I love Bayside, throw some Newfound Glory and some Sum 41 into the mix. I am a pop punk child at heart, and I will probably never outgrow that. So
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad you have a good mix of like modern pop and then some like throwbacks, because it's always a good mood changer when you got
yeah,
some good like old school sing along songs. Yeah.
we got to shake it up a little bit.
There we go. Well, next question, Becky. Obviously, like I said, you've been working for Big Picture for 6 years. But what's like one favorite memory of yours, or you can give two? Like, what have been some like favorite memories that you've had over the years?
There's a lot of memories to
Yeah,
kind
I'm sure.
of narrow it down, but getting to go to South by a few years back was really cool.
Oh,
That was one of my
awesome.
first bigger business trips, and getting to experience that with my coworkers was just an awesome thing for me. Specifically that week, my coworker Natalie and I, we got off a plane, dropped our stuff at the hotel, and ran to catch Jimmy Eat World at what was essentially a backyard party.
That's
So
so cool.
that was really fun and just like such a cool thing to do. And then on like a more personal level for me, I've always wanted to tour, and I got to spend 2 weeks on the road with the Vans Warped Tour in 2018. So getting to do that and live on a bus for a little bit and help run the press room while I was on the road and interact with all of these bands that I had been sending so many emails with for so long was just a really cool thing, to get to be a part of that as the final cross country tour too. So I would say that that was another big one for me.
That's awesome. And I've met Kevin Lyman. I think I met him once at like a like music conference in Pennsylvania, and he was just such a like he's such a cool guy. Like
So great.
you like would not imagine it. Like I not to say that I feel like he would just be like mean or anything, but it just seems like, you know, he has a lot behind him. Like he's like, you know, he's like the godfather of like all things punk. So
He's so smart and he's so good at what he does and he's so knowledgeable that getting to just sit and listen to him talk about things, it's like all I wanted to do was sit there and soak everything up like a sponge.
were you able to like talk with him? Like, I mean, obviously I know that they have like the like barbecues and stuff like that. So were you able to like spend time with him and like talk with him about like, you know, like your career? And obviously he's had a very like long and strong career doing like alternative music. So were you able to like talk to him about like, you know, him and like just obviously what Warped Tour means to you and stuff like that?
Didn't necessarily go super in depth on like my career and what Warped Tour has meant
Sure.
to me personally, but just on a more general level, because we did press for the tour, there was a lot of meetings and phone calls and in-person chats with Kevin as a company. So it was myself, Dana, Natalie, and Katie were the ones who were actively involved in all of the press. And it was a lot of just sitting down with him and finding out what his vision was for the tour and how he wanted Warped Tour to be remembered and what legacy he was looking to leave behind with that final tour. So just getting to sit and talk and listen to him go more in depth about what Warped Tour has meant to him over the years was really cool. And also just like his whole thought process behind the lineups and things like that is just such a cool thing to be able to hear him kind of talk it out.
Yeah, because I know unfortunately especially just when any Warped Tour listing comes out, like I feel like people give him a lot of crap for like, like putting a lineup together and like, oh, why isn't this band here? Why that band isn't here? And I'm just like, if you I was like, my whole thought process with Warped Tour was like, if I didn't like the whole lineup, my whole point of going to Warped Tour is to find a new band I can love. You know what I mean? If your whole goal is to be like, this isn't my perfect lineup, then you shouldn't go to Warped Tour. That's like, I feel like that's the reason why you go to Warped Tour is
you're not gonna be able to see every band anyway.
Yeah.
So why complain about the fact that you don't love every band on the bill? It just means that you're more likely to see the bands you do love.
Yeah, because the schedules change every day. It was just like mass hysteria, but it was great. You know what I mean? Like those are some of the best summers that I can remember, is just like going to Warped Tour. Shout outs to Camden Warped Tour, but like it was just such a great experience. And as much as I feel like there is a little bit of a void in summers because there is no more Warped Tour, I feel like that's a great opportunity for bands to like have these like big tours like coming up, and like to really kind of like push for those things, because I mean, like, I'm always looking for a show in the summer because I always love going to summer shows. So whenever I can find the opportunity to see a show and it's like really well done and like they have a great bill, I think that is like one of the best things you can ask for sure.
Yeah.
But obviously doing the big picture stuff, what are some advice you can give to people that are looking to like kind of jump into this business and stuff like that? Because I feel like there's not a lot out there for like people to like really know what to do, like what the best strategies are. Like I didn't even know what I wanted to do, but I knew I love music, so I was just like, I'll just start a YouTube channel. Now we're here, and now I get to work with really great like PR companies, labels, all that stuff. So I think that's really cool. But like, what if somebody wanted to be in your position? Like, what type of advice would you recommend, or like things that you would recommend for them to do?
Yeah. Number one, don't be a shitty person.
I feel like that's a given, but yes.
I don't know if I'm allowed to curse, but
you can curse. It's fine.
It's a very small industry. If you are, rude or mean to somebody unnecessarily, like it will get around.
Oh yeah.
And also people want to work with you more if you're a nice person. So just like keep the positive vibes going, do what you can to help others, and it will all come back around to you. So number one rule, just don't be a shitty person. Number two, be passionate about it. Don't get into music just because you want to say you work in the music industry. Like, it's not worth it. It is a very stressful and hectic and nonstop industry. And if you don't absolutely love it, you're not going to get very far. So just make sure that your whole heart is in it, whatever you decide to do. And then just get out there and get some experience, whether it be, starting up your own music blog and starting to write about like albums and shows and taking photos and stuff, or getting out there and doing internships, and just get a sense of what all of the different aspects of the industry are, because there's so many jobs and so many things, especially behind the scenes, that people don't even know exist.
Yeah.
And you're not going to know what's the right fit for you until you get out there and try it.
Oh, I 100% back both of those points. I will say Becky, 100% good person. I mean, it's crazy it's taken this long for us to actually like talk, but but I feel like, every time I message Becky, I know that she's going to try her 110% to get, what I would love to happen, and obviously can't always make it happen. And I feel like the one thing that I could leave off with too is like, don't be mad if they can't get what happens, like, because I can understand that. Like I'm like, trust me, I get bummed about it sometimes, but I don't ever let it reflect on Becky or anybody else that I'm in contact with, because they're doing what they can do. That's the bands have their schedule, publicists have their schedule, things don't line up. It's just like, maybe next time. I think that's what you have to take away from something like that, is like, you can't get mad at the situation because it's not almost always in their control. But if it happens, look, you get a sick interview or you get some like really cool thing for your blog or whatever. And I think that at the end of the day should be the most important thing, rather than just for you to go be like, oh my God, I hate Becky. Like, why didn't she do this to me? All this stuff. Cause I feel like you were saying, it does get around. And like for me, I've had friends that obviously I've met through you doing the whole PR stuff, and also just like people that I've met that I've like seen and play shows and become friends with, and they're always like, whenever I'm like, oh, Becky's like, thanks to Becky, if you see her, tell her thanks and all that stuff, and they're like, she always tells us like that you rock and all that stuff, and that warms my heart, because I'm like, oh my God, that's great. But like I say the same stuff. I'm like, I love working with Big Picture. I love working with like all of you guys, Becky, Natalie, Katie. I'm gonna probably forget some names, but like I feel like every one of you, like I don't really have a problem with. I know like those things happen, life happens, all that stuff. So I never take offense to it. But like you, and there's even stuff like when I'll be doing like interviews and stuff, and they're like we only hear nothing but good things about like Brandon and Audio Addiction. That just is great too. But I try to return the favor and be like, listen, Big Picture, they got some of the best staff here. So I, wanted to give the shout.
Well, we got to keep the good vibes going around, and we appreciate everything that you do for our bands, because, without people like you, we couldn't do what we do. And it just means to us that you're even willing to give some of our bands a chance, and that's why we do whatever we can to help out with stuff that you're looking to do. And just going back to what you said, sometimes we can't set stuff up, and just need everyone to know we take no pride and no pleasure in saying no to people. Like, the worst thing I ever do is have to tell somebody, sorry, we have to pass on this right now. And like, it's never a good feeling, and I don't want to. So the fact that people like you are so understanding of that, it just makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, I feel like like you said, it's something you can't control, and I feel like if you're gonna get mad at the situation, like you said earlier, you shouldn't be in this position to doing stuff. Like, you have to understand the music industry is so like all over the place, and if things magically line up, then good, that's what you want. And I have to say, I'm pretty fortunate. I usually a good amount of the time I get what I ask, so that's I could say thanks for that. And I was like, even for example, like the 4 Year Strong thing, like I know that you were talking about them, and I was just like, oh man, like I was definitely bummed, because they're one of my favorites and they're on my bucket list. So I'm just putting it out in the universe now, so everybody knows. Manifesting in 2020. But I feel like for me, like they've always been a band that I love. Like I literally have like a growing vinyl collection. I have Rise or Die Trying, and I'm trying to complete the discography. But I feel like for myself, when you were like, oh, we're doing, like when I messaged Katie and I was like, hey Katie, I was like, are you doing anything? And she's like, Becky's doing it. I was like, all right, I'll hit my girl Becky up and ask her if I could do it. And you were like, I'm gonna see what I can do, all that stuff. And I was like getting hyped about it, and then you're like, oh, can't do it, like we're doing what we can, blah blah blah. And I was just like, of course I was upset about it, because they're one of my favorites, but at the same point I was like, you know what, it's okay. There's always next time. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen with this whole situation, but I'm going to be positive and say that there is a next time.
There will 100% be a next time. Everything is just so up in the air right now. It's crazy what this virus is doing, not just to the music industry, but
just
to
in general. Yeah.
The world in general.
So hopefully this will bring a little bit of positivity to the whole like situation. But the last thing, Becky, obviously you work for Big Picture. Tell them the best way to reach out to you, like what you expect, like when somebody sends you an email. Like if I was in a band and I was going to send you an email, I'm like, Becky, this is my band, like what do you want to see from my band, like in terms of like an email, or like what would be like 100% like they hit all the nails on the head? Like, what is something you expect from a band when they email you or message you in some way?
For starters, we have a website. It's just bigpicturemediaonline.com, and there is a contact form on the site if you're interested in PR, or even if you're interested in an internship and you're located in New York and you want to see what we're about. feel free to fill out the form. I also have an email. It's Becky, BECKY, at bigpicturemediaonline.com. Fun fact, I am also the intern coordinator. So if you are looking at an internship, I am the person that it comes to. So there's that. But in terms of bands, if you have something that you're working on and you're interested in PR, email is the best way to go. I would say over Facebook Messenger or DMs on Twitter and Instagram. I'm not great about checking those, but I am very on top of my emails, and I pride myself on being pretty quick to respond to everything. So
I can back that up 100% for sure.
Email is definitely the way to go. Just include, name of your band. Any music that you have links to, feel free to send those as well, what your plan is looking like in terms of release dates and timeline and rollout and stuff like that, because the more info you can send us, the easier it is for us to figure out, okay, is this a good fit right now? Do we have a place on the roster for this? And just being able to listen to the music is a huge help too, because even if I personally am not feeling something, there might be somebody else in the office who's going to be a fan. And I'm always down to send it around to the rest of the team to see maybe somebody else would be a better fit for this. Because we want to make sure that everybody is working on stuff that they really do love and are excited about.
Yeah.
Because PR is very hard if you don't love it.
Yeah.
Just include links to music. If you have socials, include those. And like I said, any info you have in terms of, scheduled release dates and stuff like that is all very helpful to kind of put together a plan and figure out, okay, what's the next best step?
There we go. Well, go check out Becky's stuff. Please, go email her because she's awesome. I can 1000% back it. I know I keep upping it, but I feel like, she requires that level of security. So go check out Big Picture Media. This will be one of, I'm not going to count because I feel like there's going to be more than at least 3. So
yeah, you've got the rest of the team already.
we'll have all of them at least at some point. But go check out Big Picture. Honestly, I'll have to ask Dana when she comes on about when we start working together too, because I feel like in my head I'm like, it has to be it had to have been within year 1 or 2 of me doing this YouTube thing, and now I'm on to year 4. So I feel like, first of all, getting old, but secondly, very cool. And again, when I got the email, I was just super stoked. So I'm glad that we've been able to continue the great, positive vibes, the ability to just work together. I think it's such a cool experience. I'm excited to see where this series goes and have more people on. And so if you are a part of the music business thing, if you do anything behind the scenes, feel free to reach out to me. I check out the DMs, so if you want to DM me, you can do that. Email is probably the best because I feel like it's a little bit more professional, but if you just want to hit those DMs up, that's also fine too. I'm not gonna be done. But go check out, like I said, Big Picture. If you enjoyed this interview, share it. I'm excited for this series to finally take off. It will be, this will already be out, so I'm not going to give a plan on when everything's going to be released, but check it out. Go message Becky if you have any questions. She really does respond super quickly to all of her stuff, so I wanted to glad that you were the first one, because I feel like we've been working together probably the longest out of everybody at Big Picture. So super stoked to have Becky on, and I'm excited to have the rest of Big Picture on later.
Yeah, you're in for some great interviews.
Oh, I am. I know. I'm very excited, especially because I feel like I know you probably the most, and that's very much stretching it. So go check out, like I said, Big Picture, links in the description. And thanks, of course, to Becky for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.